Scorpio friends, it's just Jay with True Empathic Insights Tarot. Thank you so much for joining me on my channel this month. If you haven't checked out your moon and or rising sign already, this is the first time I've done any romance or love oracle card reading since I started my YouTube channel. So it's very exciting. It's been quite the journey. And like I said, if you haven't checked out your moon and or rising sign, it's been very interesting in the sense that I have certainly tried to relay it to both relationships and those of you that are single, but I have to go based off the messages the universe gives me and my guides give me to relay that back to you. And if it's more so geared towards one versus the other, you know, that's been really interesting too. Not to mention the fact that while I intended for it to be just like a monthly general love reading, it's been more so a general love reading based off of your sign in general and what to expect primarily for like the year. That's what I've been given. So yeah, it's been very interesting and hopefully helpful to the majority that have watched it, watched their videos thus far. My goal is certainly to try and get these videos out to you before February 1st. So that gives you something to kind of think about moving into the month. But again, it feels very much like messages that you needed to hear basically for the year as it relates to your love path. Now, the cards I've been using have been the Romance Angels Oracle Card Deck by Doreen Virtue. I also do a lot of love readings, so that's why it's worn down a little bit. And then the Clarifier card I'm pulling from the Lovers Oracle Card Deck by Tony Carmine Salerno. I really do like these cards because they're in the shape of hearts. So that's kind of fun. And so, without further ado, we're just going to go ahead and get right to it. Now, the first card I pulled for you, my dear Scorpio friends, is Religious Factors. So, right now, this tells me this is a relationship-oriented reading. Not so much for my single Virgos, so much as for my relationship-oriented Virgos. And I feel like many of you are in a relationship right now, and that relationship was centered on religious factors. You definitely went into this relationship with a very spiritual doctrine or belief system rooted in you already. And so when you chose this partner, that was a big reason why you chose that partner to begin with. That religious upbringing, that religious doctrine that has been implanted in you since you were a child. And there's nothing wrong with that. Religion has a lot of good factors to it. Some negative factors, but that's my own truth. That's my own belief system. Some things that I don't necessarily agree with, even though I was raised with the Christian doctrine myself. There's some things that prove to not resonate with me as strongly, and I questioned, and those questions were not answered properly. So I had to find my own truth. I had to find my own way. Hence, my intuition, etc. And then, of course, using these as my medium. However, oh, and my space heater might come on every so often because it's a little colder in the lower area of my home. So if you hear that little buzzing, that's the space heater that just came on. But hopefully you can still hear me. I'm also recovering from a yucky virus, so that's why my voice is a little bit raspy too. But hopefully you can hear me okay. Anyway, so that's my own truth. That's Jay's personal mentality connected to that. But for some of you, that's still very much a prominent area of your life. And you definitely want to be with somebody who, I can completely concur, shares that with you, because when it comes to children, when it comes to raising children, you want them to be raised with the same values, the same moral fiber, the same ethical background. So choosing a partner that shares that doctrine with you, in a sense, kind of ensures or assures that your children will be raised with the same belief system. It's a lot more challenging if two partners in a marriage have two very different religious backgrounds. They don't share that, and then they try to start a family, and then it's like, what do we raise the kids with? Unless you guys are grounded in your relationship enough to know that it's okay if we share both elements, so that way when our children get older, they can choose for themselves. Or, for most people, you want them to grow up with the same doctrine, and you want them to continue with that into adulthood. It helps a lot if the religious upbringing is the same. So I feel like for many of you, my Scorpio friends, that has been a major factor in who you allow yourself to get close to. And I love that about Doreen Virtue's cards, because she was raised with a religious doctrine. There's a lot of dogma in her cards, and that's why I appreciate that. Hence the Angels Oracle card deck as well. Because there's a lot of us that still have that belief system, and I feel like many of us can relate to that as opposed to the traditional Rider-Waite Tarot card deck. Excuse me. So I feel like for many of you, this person that you're with, it wasn't even necessarily about attraction. It wasn't even necessarily about passion so much as the religious upbringing. Like, that was a major factor in why you allowed yourself to get close to this person. Now, there could be some similarities as far as things you have in common. And that's a good thing. That's good. You have something to talk about. You have something that you can share in that sense, as far as dating and etc. But a major reason why you're with this person is because of that upbringing. And it could be because some of you may already have children. And so in selecting a partner to marry, that to help you raise your child, that was probably a big deciding factor within it. It says here your love life is influenced by your religious upbringing and spiritual path. So there was definitely something very much rooted in that. That's the reason why you're with this person now. For some of you, I might charge you to look at the bigger scope of things, because there's obviously more than just that. I do believe in a higher being. God, the universe, the divine, whatever you'd like to call him in that sense. I do believe he exists. He, she, it. But I also believe that there's more beyond this plane that a lot of us have closed ourselves off from seeing. Now, if you're watching this video, that tells me right off the gate, right off the bat, that you know there's more. There's more to this plane than meets the eye. And you're definitely more open and interested in exploring those different elements. But there's a lot of people that still walk with a veil over their eyes. They like to live in that closed off, this might sound a little harsh, but ignorance. They like to live in a state of ignorance. I mean, hence ignorance is bliss. That's safe. That's a safe kind of mentality. And as long as you've got this strong faith-based community sort of supporting that and grounding you, it's so much easier to stay connected to that versus not. Do you know what I mean? Because the minute you pull away from it, the minute you start to question it, which is something that happened to me, is happening to me, there's a lot of juxtaposing thoughts and issues that come from it, in a sense. Because they want you to believe in what they believe. They want you to think like them. So I would just charge you to continue to remain open. I feel like many of you are open. If you're watching this video, you are open. That tells me right off the bat. But for those of you that may not be, because you also have to take into consideration, especially if children are a major factor in why you chose this partner, your children are going to develop a mindset of their own someday. While you may try to enforce and try to steer them in this particular direction that you'd like them to go in, ultimately, they're going to choose their own paths. The best thing you can do as a parent is support them, nurture them, and love them. But they may ultimately decide that they don't like religion. And I know that if you force religion down a child's throat, eventually they'll grow to resent you for it, in many cases. And many of them, excuse me, will steer away from that and not want to stay close to it. So striking a balance is the thing. That's what I would strongly encourage for the lot of you, striking a balance. Yep. And also recognizing that you need there to be not only that element, the spiritual element, but you also need the emotional element from your partner, the sexual element. You need all of those things and the mental element to come together before you select a partner. Don't let this be the ultimate deciding factor. There need to be other elements that come into play that ultimately decide whether or not this relationship is long-term and this relationship will ultimately work. That makes sense. So for those of you that are single and are dating, I charge this as a warning. If you want to find the solid relationship that you're looking for, your twin flame in a sense, do not let this be the ultimate deciding factor. Spirituality is very important, but you need all elements in order for that relationship to work out properly. Okay. Let your friends help you. So how can I relay that to you, universe? Okay. Well, maybe you can consider me as a friend. I'm helping you avoid putting yourself in a situation that I could be the kindred spirit that's helping you to avoid putting yourself in a situation that might end up being such a downfall for you and such a waste of your time ultimately. You could be going into a relationship for all the wrong reasons, basically. Religious factors should not be the ultimate deciding factor of why you go into a relationship with somebody. You need to make sure that all the elements sync up, all the elements align. So maybe that's what this card is relating to. My advice to you. But it could also mean that your friends are also trying to encourage you as well. Like, don't just be with this person because of that. You know, does this person make you happy? Does this person share your viewpoints? Do you have a lot in common with this person? Is there passion? Is there this? Is there that? If there's not, and you're just relying solely on this whole religious upbringing, you know, there's a lot of people who ultimately will get married just because their families are strongly encouraging it. Some people will get married just to have sex, which I think is the worst thing you could do, honestly. Yes, you want to be smart about it. You don't want to just, I get it, just have sex with anyone without protection, without without some form of knowledge, which can put you in a much worse state than you were in the beginning, right? But at the same time, if you get married primarily for sex, is there anything else that's coming into play? No. There is no real foundation. There's no real grounding other than my religion says I can only have sex once I'm married. A lot of people end up getting divorced because of that. There needs to be all of these other elements combined. So if you're doing that, Scorpio, I would charge you against it. And other things, you know, your friends might be saying to you, hey, you know, is this somebody that you really have a strong connection to? Or are you just doing this because this says you should? So I would charge you to really think about that. Really think about it. Make sure it's the right one. The right person for you. And it even says here, ask for and accept support from others. Not that your friends should be the deciding factor either in the person that you're with, but your friends are there for a reason. And if they're seeing red flags and you're not, I would charge you to really take that into consideration. You know what I mean? Because in a sense, they might actually be trying to help you. Some people, you know, they don't want to see you happy. I get it. You know who your real friends are versus not. You know who your frenemies are versus real solid friends. And if your friends are saying to you something isn't right, and don't just be with this person because of religion, then I would charge you to take that into consideration. Don't just marry this person because religion says you have to. You know? Final card, retreat. It's a very interesting reading, Scorpio. Your reading has been very interesting indeed. So when I usually see this retreat card, you know, honestly, I know it's supposed to be a couple, but sometimes I think it's like the dad getting ready to walk his daughter down the aisle. That's what I think. Like he's having one final conversation with her before she walks down the aisle to be with the love of her life and go off into a state of bliss with her partner. But I think in many ways, this is probably not the case, but that's what I see when I see the card. It could very well be that they are a couple that's getting ready to walk into a state of bliss and be together and fully embrace each other. I just think it's interesting because he clearly looks older. Like he's got the gray hair and then she's got the younger, the blonde hair, and she just seems younger, even though I can't see her face. So I don't know. Cards are up to interpretation, honestly. So if you see them as a couple, then cool. If not, okay then. I don't see them as a couple. I see that as a father getting ready to walk his daughter down the aisle. But it could be a couple. There are older men that are with younger women all the time. Or older individuals with younger people all the time. That happens quite a bit. Sometimes that's a balance for a lot of relationships. An older, wiser soul with a younger, wiser soul balancing each other out. But it's saying it's time to disconnect from the world. Retreat. So, what that tells me is the person that you're exploring a relationship with, the person that you're allowing yourself to be with, that you're leaning towards because of this. This to me is saying, the universe is saying, kind of disconnect from the world a little bit and get to know this person a little bit better. Allow yourself to really develop a relationship with this person. Don't rush into something with this person. Really allow yourself to see if all of those other elements actually connect and they sync up. If they do, then fantastic. You're with the right person. If they don't, then that's kind of a charge from the universe that maybe it's time for you to consider other options. Open your scope a little bit more, a little broader, a little bit wider. I feel like many of you chose this because it was safe. You chose this because it was a safety net for you. Especially if you, if any Scorpios are single parents. That may just be the most, because Scorpios are hot. Like, people are just naturally drawn to you, and I get it. They're drawn to you, and so sometimes for the sake of being, you just go, okay, fine. I'll allow myself to be with this person. But you maybe allowed this person to come in and allowed yourself to be with this person because of this factor. Because, I mean, maybe you needed help raising your child. Maybe you needed some help. And so it was just, you know, well, at least this person goes to the same church as me. At least this person shares this religious view as me. So it could be a lot worse. I'm in a good place. And that's good. Gratitude is always good. But just be smart about it. Okay? Be very smart about it, my dear Scorpio friends. And retreat might be called for. Really get to know this person. Make sure you're with this person for all the right reasons. Because if you're not, this will royally explode down the road. And you don't need that. You've been through enough. Wouldn't you say? I feel like many of you have been through enough. And I dropped a bunch of cards, so please. Let's see here. Getting your clarifier card for you. Gosh, your reading just felt kind of heavy. I'm sorry if it felt as such. I can only parlay what the universe gives me. I'm still connected to you, I promise. Okay. Ah, goodness. Okay, universe, there's a lot of energy. I get it. Just one card, please. One. One is all I need. Thank you. Okay. Here's my one. Came out pretty fast. Okay. Dove, which in Christian faith is sign of the Holy Spirit, can also represent love, unconditional love. And there's the moon behind it, which is sort of representing, which is sort of illuminating its past, but it can also represent a water sign as well. The moon is indicative of water signs, so Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces. But the message itself says, you may not always understand why certain things happen. However, there is always a higher purpose to the events in your life. Through turmoil, a blessing will soon be revealed. Okay. So, I just said this reading is kind of heavy, and so maybe that might feel a little bit tumultuous for you right now, the turmoil, if you will. But allowing yourself to really explore the depths of this relationship if it ends up syncing up properly for you, if it ends up resonating for your soul, if this ends up being the right person for you, then how much more grounded is this relationship going to be once you know, once you're solid in it? If it's not, then you're giving yourself an opportunity to be with the right one, the one that is solid. So even though this feels a little tumultuous, maybe that's good for you because it's forcing you, sorry, that's not a word, forcing you to open your eyes and your heart to the right one. Hope that was helpful to you, my dear Scorpio friends. Okay, if you'd like a personal reading that is indicative of your own situation, by all means, feel free to contact me. The information in the description box below or conveniently at the end of this video. As always, check your moon and your rising sign if you haven't done so already. See how that's syncing up for you too. And feel free to let me know how this resonated for you in the comment section below. If this is something that really connected to you, oh, it does me a world of good to know that it's connecting to you. So I love to hear from you guys all the time. Or you can send me a personal email if you don't feel comfortable making it public, making your comments public. I understand. All right, there you go, Scorpio. Blessings, light, and love. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.